not going to say that Victor Ortiz wasn't hurt. He was genuinely hurt, but it didn't look like he wanted to continue or that he was in any shape, whether it was psychological, whether it was mental, or whether it was physical. It didn't seem like he was fit to continue on any of those three levels. But I'm not going to say he quit. I'm going to say that he was stopped by Berto, and he stopped him very well.
Yeah, and you could tell he was hurt because when the referee turned to him and asked him, "Are you ready to continue? Do you want to continue?" He didn't say anything. He just paused and looked at the referee with kind of glassy eyes. And that's a dead giveaway that the fight needs to be stopped.
Right. And my best friend was upset about the way Jack Reese approached the situation, because Jack Reese, he gave him an extended count. You know, he counted to 9. Victor Ortiz got up at 9.5, which in most cases you would have been counted out at that point if it took you that long to get up. Jack Reese gave him an opportunity, and that's, again, speaks to the A-side politic. If Victor Ortiz wasn't the A-side, that would have been, you're done. But Jack Reese, the referee, gave him an opportunity to continue. And Victor Ortiz was not responsive. Yeah, he actually looked towards his corner. He wasn't looking at Jack. He didn't want none at that point. He just was not fit to continue.
Right. Now, this sets Andre Berto up and gives him new life in the 147-pound division. A lot of people are talking about setting up a fight with the undefeated WBC champion at 47, Danny Garcia. But there's some other attractive fights out there for Danny Garcia. There's the winner of Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. Then there's Jesse Vargas that's out there, who's a 147-pound champion. You know, Tim Bradley coming off a loss to Pacquiao. So if you're Danny Garcia, why take a fight with Andre Berto when there's so many other options, so many other great fights to be made in the welterweight division?
That's a great question. Danny Garcia, I've always said that he's a very patient man when it comes to the topic of Floyd Mayweather. He's been patient this whole time because I think he knows that fight is a possibility. He's just waiting for that window to open. So I think that if that fight presents itself, he'll jump on that and not take a fight with Berto. If that fight doesn't present itself, then I think the winner, depending on how the fight with Keith Thurman and Sean Porter goes, I think he'll wait to see the end result of that one before he makes a decision to either fight the winner of that one or Berto. Because I could see Berto being another PBC, either NBC, CBS, or Fox event. It's not going to be a pay-per-view.
Now, jumping into that Floyd Mayweather conversation, he opened up the door in a conversation with Jim Gray at the fights last weekend, saying that he had been in talks with CBS Showtime and they were offering him crazy amounts of money, upwards to 9 figures, to come back to get into the ring. And he was asked about the winner of Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. Didn't really sound interested in that. He was asked about with Triple G. Didn't really sound interested in that. But when the name Danny Garcia came up, he sounded very open to getting back into the ring with the undefeated WBC champion.
And I'm not surprised for 2 reasons, right? The first reason, I've been saying it. Danny Garcia undefeated, a beatable opponent based on styles for Floyd. Has a rich history spatially from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a boxing city.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. So a fight between Floyd and Danny would sell. The second reason is that a fight between a black male and a Latino, Puerto Rican, Philly Rican guy like Danny also sells. That's how boxing promoters think. Like, what's the narrative that's going to sell a fight? You know, I think a lot of boxing promoters are like, a black fighter versus a black fighter might not sell because where's the drama in that? But a black fighter and a brown fighter fighting, there's drama that could be used to like sell the boxing spectacle. So there's so much there that could be sold on the villain Floyd Mayweather coming out of retirement and Danny Garcia, the undefeated, good-looking Puerto Rican from Philly. That right there, I think, is the ingredient to sell a fight like that on pay-per-view.
Not to mention that the Latino fan base in boxing is huge. And when you talk about folks that are going to tune in, when you talk about people who are going to buy pay-per-views, the Latin community is second to none. They're gonna buy fights. They bring a lot of commerce, a lot of money to the table, and Floyd Mayweather understands that. That's why a lot of his opponents in the past have been Latino fighters. Now, again, we spoke about this before in my humble the split decision. I don't think Floyd is going to come back, but if he does come back, I do see him getting in the ring with Danny Garcia. Easy fight to sell, being that Danny Garcia is an undefeated champion, has a lot of power, has put a lot of folks down. And then when you look at Danny's father, Angel Garcia, I mean, he could sell pay-per-view tickets by itself.
Absolutely. And you know, like that, I think they've been quiet the whole time. They're just waiting. I think Danny Garcia and his father, Angel Garcia, are waiting for that opportunity to present itself. And once it presents itself, when all parties sit down and coming up with a strategy, from the press tour to the narratives that they're going to select to get fans to want to buy this fight, because it's all about the narrative, the story. What's the story? What's the drama behind Danny Garcia and Floyd Mayweather? It's like Lou DiBella said in the documentary Champs, boxing is theater. And so for fans to understand that, and then also, like, you know, the Latino market in boxing is huge. That's why that's why De La Hoya wants Canelo to fight on Cinco de Mayo weekend again. Not because they have some type of pride for the Battle of Puebla in 1862 and the way that Mexico resisted the French imperialism of the time. No, it's because boxing and beer companies have linked up to sell that weekend to a Latino fan base. You know, so it's about making a buck. Boxing trying to say that they embrace diversity, but not really. It's all about the ways that boxing could capitalize, and the way to capitalize on that to get fans on board is to sell stories that relate to the people.
So much going on in the world of boxing right now. So much more to talk about. We got Terrence Crawford, who just signed to fight Victor Postal in a unification fight at 140 pounds. Want to get into that. And then also talk about the mega fight. I'm using air quotes. You can't see it because this is a podcast, but the mega fight between Canelo Alvarez and Amir Khan. Now, Rudy, I know that you feel a little differently than a lot of other people when it comes to this fight, including myself. But if you would like for you to stick around for one more segment. We'll get into those subjects and get your pound for pound list on the All Things Sport podcast with Daimeon Banks and Pierre Banks on Spreaker Radio. What up? This is Pierre Banks, and when I'm back in Boone watching the Mountaineers, my first stop is always Mountaineer Mania. The good folks at Mountaineer Mania have the widest selection of app gear, so you can cheer on the Mountaineers in style. T-shirts, hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, decals, cornhole sets. I mean, if you need it, they've got it. So head on down to Mountaineer Mania at 497 West King Street in Boone and tell them I sent you.
Hi, this is Daimeon Banks. Thank you for listening to the All Things Sport podcast. You can also catch me on the Puff TV Morning Combo on Blog Talk Radio every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Call 347-677-0956 and I'll give you Sports by Daimeon.
The All Things Sport podcast
We go back like spinal cords and car seats.
with Daimeon Banks and Pierre Banks on Spreaker Radio.
And we are back with the All Things Sport podcast. I'm Pierre Banks, and I'm joined right now again by the Boxing Intellect and founder of Bloody Money Boxing, Mr. Rudy Mondragon. This weekend, Cinco de Mayo weekend, the biggest weekend in boxing, we have Saul Canelo Alvarez taking on Amir King Khan, what has been billed as the next super fight. This fight's going to take place in the middleweight division and actually is going to be fought for the lineal and WBC middleweight title. Now, Rudy, you know how I feel. I think it's going to be a short night of work for Canelo Alvarez. I think it's going to be easy work. You feel a little bit differently, though.
The reason why I feel differently, and maybe because I'm just so in support of the underdog, and I feel like this is a good opportunity for Amir Khan, because if he wins this fight, his name is elevated to new heights. if Canelo wins, which is expected and should happen, I don't see. I mean, Khan's name is big because it's a popular name in the boxing world, but I don't see there being a lot of merit, a lot of sense of accomplishment for Canelo in fighting against Khan. So for that reason, but fans will be like, well, Canelo beat a good Khan. He beat a name. He beat a popular name. But jumping two weight classes, jumping a whole weight class, technically 2 weight classes, since they're fighting for the 160-pound belt, even though they're doing it at a catch weight of 155, which Evander Holyfield just said that was ridiculous.
Yeah, but it is, technically, giving them their due, technically that is the middleweight weight class. Anything between 155 and 160 is middleweight, but,
So technically, Canelo's fighting in the middleweight range.
Right.
And that's what happens when you're the A side, when you have an entire boxing promotion empire behind you. Golden Boy is dictating the terms of that contract. And Khan even said it, if we could take one thing from the 24/7 that Khan said was, Khan was frustrated with the negotiations that they didn't want to have it at a lower weight. So Khan just conceded and agreed to do it at 155. I think Khan wanted that fight at a little lower weight class, but he had to do what he had to do to still go forward with this fight. So now my personal prediction on the fight and the way I feel about this fight, although I agree with you, right? I think Canelo should win this fight, should win it by knockout. And I'm in the very small percentage of boxing fans or experts, whatever, who think that there's still slight possibility for Khan to actually come out successful in this fight. So my prediction for this fight is a long shot. I think that linking up with Virgil Hunter, I think Khan can have the necessary game plan that can combine the lessons that one can learn from Erislandy Lara versus Canelo and Floyd Mayweather versus Canelo. If Khan can take those 2 fights and adapt it to his own game plan and use his footwork, use his speed, and use his athleticism, I think he can avoid Canelo for 12 rounds. It's very difficult to avoid Canelo for 12 rounds, especially given the history of Khan, where he likes to engage and fight. If he gets dropped by Canelo, for example, but he's winning on the scorecards, the right thing to do, I think, for Khan would be to take a knee. But I don't know if Khan has it in him to make a decision like that in the ring, in the heat of the moment. I'm hurt. Let me take a knee and take my 8 count. Because what have we seen before he's been knocked down? He wants to get right back up, and I think that's cost him in his past. So if, let's say, hypothetically, he gets put down this weekend against Canelo, can he take an 8 count? Can he be smart and disciplined and listen to Virgil from round 1 to 12? And I think if he does that, I think he can outbox and outpoint Canelo. And De La Hoya and Golden Boy already have a rematch clause, which tells me Golden Boy's doing whatever possible in their power in case there is an upset, which I think the fact that they're doing that, there is a slight possibility for an upset. And I'm hoping that an upset does occur. And I know all the Mexican fans that are listening to this podcast right now are like, what the heck is this guy talking about? Where are your loyalties? Aren't you Mexican? Don't get it twisted, my peoples. I have a big problem. I won't call Canelo a paper champion, but he has a lot of power behind him in having Golden Boy Promotions behind him. So we got to keep that real too and keep that in perspective.
Yeah, and you make a great point when you talk about Khan. When he gets dropped, he wants to get right back up. And he doesn't even take all of the time in account to stay down. He wants to pop right back up and show that he's not hurt, but legs are always wobbly. And then not only does he pop right back up, he doesn't hold. He doesn't try to avoid his opponent. He wants to stand and trade and show them that he's not hurt, though he is hurt noticeably and visibly in the fight. Now, a lot of people feel like Khan's footwork is going to be the key to him grabbing a victory in this fight. When I look at this fight and I think about, the troubles that Canelo had with Erislandy Lara, the troubles that he had with TBE Floyd Mayweather, it was the footwork that gave Canelo trouble. It was the ability to evade punches and then come back and counter. But what Canelo has done is evolved over time, and he's learned to become such a great counter puncher that I think that when Amir Khan comes at him and throws those combinations like he does,